Hello, beautiful people. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you had a lovely Sabbath day yesterday. Today, I thought we could expose our second dirty American politician, Netanyahu. I'm sorry, hold on one second. What's that? He's not an American politician? But he has citizenship, doesn't he? He's got so much influence. He speaks before Congress. He has dinners at the White House with President Trump pretty often. Really? Oh, I stand corrected. He's not an American politician, but he's still dirty, so let's expose him. I want to start by sharing a video with you.
The internet rumors that somehow Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk murder, and I don't believe it for 1 second, but I want you to make a statement. It's so absurd.
That's insane. Israel also changes the orbit of the moon. Israel pushes the sun. I mean, the whole thing is not only insane. I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying that. They just found the perpetrator.
Yeah, so they found the perpetrator.
I am your guest.
So case closed, right? Shout out to Jimmy Dore for sharing that video with us. It really begs the question, why? Why did Netanyahu feel like he needed to go on TV and declare that? I mean, it's just so interesting to me, and kind of makes me think like, baby, you probably shouldn't have said anything at all, because now you got our full attention. And Americans, well, we don't like being gaslit. Just ask President Trump. But I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, might have something to do with the fact that Charlie Kirk was very pro-Israel for a long time, until recently. Now his views were starting to change on Israel, and well, I don't know if you would call that a conflict of interest or what, because I could be wrong, but I believe he was getting a little bit of funding from Israel. So regardless, I think it was possibly becoming a problem for Netanyahu and his government. Let me show you what I mean. Hold on a second.
A question. It's never just a question. So here is Charlie Kirk speaking with Ben Shapiro.
We've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, that's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
I think that's a really, really good question. How does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing? So perhaps that's why Netanyahu made that statement. I don't think he really clarified, but I think that's a safe assumption. Now, let's really talk about Netanyahu. Let's get into who he is, what his family history is, and what he's accomplished, what he's been up to. And I'd also like to kind of stop and take a moment to kind of point out that in America, we have been very focused on this assassination, as we should be, because it was an attack on all of us, really, our freedom. So we've been very, very hyper-focused on it. However, when you look outside of America and you see what's going on in the world today, I think you might be really, really surprised to find out that there is a whole lot of, here, let me give you an example. Let's go back to September 10th. Let's find out what was going on in the world on September 10th, the day of the assassination. Now, a lot of us probably do not know, but Israel launched a strike on Qatar. Israel is facing global condemnation over its unprecedented attack on Tuesday in the capital of Qatar, a key mediator in Gaza ceasefire talks. The target of the strike was Hamas leaders, but it failed to assassinate the negotiating delegation. Qatar is one of the United States' closest allies in the region and is leading diplomatic talks to bring an end to the war in Gaza and the release of Israeli hostages held by Hamas in the enclave. The strike will likely put hostage negotiations at risk, analysts say. President Donald Trump criticized the strike, saying he found out about the plan too late to intervene. Well, that's very, very convenient. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has portrayed the attack as a peacemaking action that could hasten the end of the war. Oh, that's nice. Let's see what else happened. Oh, this is interesting. Russian drones. Poland's military reported today that it shot down Russian drones that entered into its airspace during an attack on Ukraine. It marked the first time Russian drones had been shot down over the territory of a NATO member state, Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk said. This is an act of aggression that posed a real threat to our citizens, said Poland's Operation Command. Tusk called the incursion a large-scale provocation, noting it involved a huge number of drones. The European Union's foreign policy chief called it the most serious European airspace violation by Russia since the war began. The Polish military thanked NATO member the Netherlands for contributing F-35 fighter jets to defensive operations overnight, which have now concluded. That's quite a bit going on so far. Let's see if there's anything else that we can talk about here. Oh, this is an interesting image. What is that? Huh. Wow, that looks like a Capitol building. Oh, another government has fallen in India's neighborhood. This time it is Nepal, a historic friend of New Delhi. Protests led by Gen Z turned deadly, prompted K.P. Sharma Oli to step down as the prime minister. India's border areas with Nepal are on high alert as the unrest continues there. As Nepal is on the boil, what does it mean for India? Well, how about that? It looks like Gen Z is overthrowing their government in India. It's funny that we haven't heard about that on the news cycle either. Oh, this is interesting. Here, look at London. Wow. Starmer rolls out red carpet for genocide. Reads the front page headline of The National. A Scottish daily as anger mounts over the British Prime Minister's meeting with Isaac Herzog, the Israeli president. Herzog is understood to have arrived in UK on Tuesday. A lot going on Tuesday. He will meet with Premier Starmer on Wednesday and is reportedly planning to speak at the Chatham House think tank later in the day. He is expected to leave on Friday. Now, also, there's a lot of protests going on in the UK that you probably haven't heard about either, and I think they have a lot to do with the violations of all their freedoms and the fact that they just appointed a Muslim to head up their immigration policies. Yep, bet you didn't hear about that either. Herzog's visit, which comes during a week when Israel has dropped bombs on Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, Qatar, and Yemen, has prompted calls for his arrest while he is in London. The International Center of Justice for Palestinians, the ICJP, has written to Scotland Yard demanding that the Israeli president be investigated upon his arrival in UK on suspicion of bearing criminal liability for alleged war crimes, the group said. Well, that's funny because his prime minister said that he's on a peacekeeping mission. Herzog is suspected of bearing criminal liability for alleged war crimes, crimes against humanity, torture, and actions that constitute plausible genocide, said ICJP, and that does not go along with Netanyahu's rhetoric. Very interesting. Sure does seem like there's a whole lot going on in the world that we don't know about. And it seems to have a lot to do with people overthrowing their corrupt governments. But here in America, we're just fighting each other like we do every other day. I'm sure it has nothing to do with anything else. Well, what's this, too? Here we have Trump making some announcements. Was it an ultimatum he gave Russia about the drone strikes? Fantastic. My goodness, what does Egypt have to say about all this? Well, Egypt has decided to reduce coordination with Israel until further notice, following Israel's strike targeting senior Hamas leaders in Qatar on Tuesday. Saudi outlet Al Arabiya. You know what? You guys are going to have to excuse me. I'm a public school graduate, so I don't know how to pronounce a lot of words, especially if it's in a different language. I'm lucky I can understand English. Egypt is also planning to restructure its security communications with Israel following the attack, according to sources. Cairo condemned Israel's strike in Qatar, arguing the strike indicated Israel's intention to destroy all opportunities for reaching a ceasefire with Hamas and releasing the hostages. The IDF and Shin Bet launched its attack on the Qatari capital to assassinate Hamas's leadership. That's weird, right? You're going to attack the capital of Qatar to go after Hamas leadership. I'm sure Qatar will get over that real quick once they understand why. Well, anyway, thousands of young Indians have taken to the streets to protest their government over a ban on social media platforms. The protests have garnered national attention as Prime Minister resigned and the Indian Parliament was set on fire. Oh my goodness. We have a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council South Asia Center told Newsweek that protesters are a generational reckoning against a culture of political impunity in the South Asian region as a whole. Wow. I mean, really, look at that again. Isn't that just wild? You see that? I actually saw footage of them kicking the Prime Minister in the butt as he was walking down the street in shame. That'll teach him. Oh boy, could you imagine if we did that to our leaders? Oh man, that would feel good. But certainly wouldn't ever condone setting any buildings on fire. That's absolutely not at all what I'm condoning. I'm just kind of condoning overthrowing a corrupt government. Nepal crisis, huh? I don't know. I mean, it sounds like they got everything under control now. You know, the internet's really a great thing, isn't it? Could you imagine if they tried to limit our use of it or try to ban, us from using the internet? I mean, it's such a great way to share information and learn the truth since our media works for the government. It's total propaganda. Wow, there's just so much information here and so much going on that we have absolutely nothing to do with. But you know what? Let's get back to Netanyahu. I think I got a little off topic. What can we find out here? Well, Netanyahu. Well, his mother. Looks like she's from the American Midwest. Hey, that's where the Jewish mafia got started. Oh, and his father, Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's learn about him. Now, he was born in 1910. That was the year before Lansky came over to America from Russia. I wonder if those two ever met. He was Polish born. Actually, it was Russian territory there, so Russian Jew. He was an Israeli encyclopedist, historian, and medievalist. Okay, he served as a professor of history at Cornell, a scholar of Judaic history. He was also an activist in the revisionist Zionism movement. Oh, and look at this. He was a lobbyist. Good for him. He lobbied in the United States to support the creation of the Jewish state. His field of expertise was a history of Jews in Spain. That's interesting because I think the Jews kind of kicked them out, didn't they? I don't know much about that history. I think I'll have to look into that. He was an editor of the Hebrew Encyclopedia, an assistant to Benjamin Askim. Okay, and who was that? Jabotinsky's personal secretary. What is this revisionist Zionism and Jabotinsky? I've never learned about any of this in public school. Let me see if I can find more information here. Let's see. Oh, wow, the internet has so much information. Isn't this incredible? Oh, it just goes on and talk about Germany and everything. Here it is, revisionist Zionism. It's a form of Zionism characterized by territorial maximalism. Revisionist Zionism promoted expansionism and the establishment of the Jewish majority on both sides of the Jordan River. Developed by Jabotinsky, in the 1920s, this ideology advocated a revision of the practical Zionism of Gurian and Chaim Weizmann, which was focused on the Settling of the land of Israel. Okay, by independent individuals. Settling of the land of Israel by independent individuals. Differing from other types of Zionism, revisionists insisted upon the Jewish right to sovereignty over the whole of the land of Israel, including mandatory Palestine. Mandatory Palestine? Huh. Let's look up mandatory Palestine. What do you think mandatory Palestine is? I mean, we've all heard of Palestine, right? I mean, aren't they the predecessors of the Philistines there? Mandatory Palestine. Oh, well, that was a British administrative territory that existed between 1920 and 1948. 1948, that's when they established the State of Israel in the region of Palestine. And after 1922, under the terms of the League of Nations mandate for Palestine, the British took the territory, deeming it presently unfit for self-government. Oh, that good thing we have the British government to take over their land. Oh, and here's a map. Oh, well, that's interesting. Look at that. That's the current state of Israel. That mandatory Palestine that Britain owned. It's where the Ishmeslites lived, where they had the northern and southern kingdoms that got invaded and conquered and spread the Jews all over. Huh, that's interesting. What else can we learn about this mandate? Israel. Official State of Israel. Here we go. During the mandate, the area saw successive waves of Jewish immigrants and the rise of national movements in both the Jewish and Arab communities. Now, at the time, it looks like it was approximately 70% Arab, with about 10% Christian, 20% Jew. Okay. Competing interests of the two populations of Jewish and Arab communities led to 1936 to 1939 Arab revolt in Palestine and the 1944 to 1948 Jewish insurgency in mandatory Palestine. The United Nations, good thing they're there to help take control. They created a partition plan for Palestine to divide the territory into two states, one Arab and one Jewish, and that was passed in 1947. The 1948 Palestine War ended with the territory of mandatory Palestine divided among the State of Israel, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, which annexed territory on the west bank of the Jordan River, and the Kingdom of Egypt, which established the Allied Palestine Protectorate in the Gaza Strip. Mandatory Palestine was designated as a Class A mandate. Based on its social, political, and economic development, the classification was reserved for post-war mandates with the highest capacity for self-governance. All Class A mandates over the mandatory Palestine had gained independence by 1946. Whew, that's a lot of history. 1948 is when they established the State of Israel. And look at that. Look at that. That flag is interesting, isn't it? You see that? That's Solomon's seal. If you don't know about Solomon, I suggest you research that because I think it's really curious. Oh, and now, let's look at the demographic of Israel now. Oh, now it's 74% Jewish, 20% Islam. You see that flip happen. Yeah, I guess it's still 10% Christian, right? Oh, no. It's only 2% Christian. I wonder what happened to all those Christians. I wonder what happened to all the Christians that were in Palestine. Because they're not there. They're not there. Yeah. Wow. That's a whole lot of information this internet gives us. Whole lot of information. Well, let's get back to Netanyahu. Now, we learned quite a bit about his father, Benzion. His mother's from the Midwest. She was American. His father came to the United States. Interesting. And Netanyahu is one of, looks like 3 kids here. Let's learn about his other siblings, shall we? Oh, look at this. His one brother. Now, you're going to have to excuse me with this pronunciation here. Looks like Jonathan. Netanyahu? Well, he was a notable commander in the Sayeret Matkal. Well, what was that? That was a special reconnaissance unit of Israel's general staff. It is considered one of the premier special force units in Israel. That's military intelligence. Wow. I wonder who else is associated with that unit of military intelligence. Let's see. Oh, look. It's Benjamin Netanyahu. Oh my goodness, and his other brother, Edo. Wow, that's quite the family affair. Oh my gosh. Ehud Barak. Well, that sounds familiar. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds like somebody who was associated with Epstein. Oh, let's get back to it, shall we? Through primarily a field intelligence gathering unit conducting deep recon behind enemy lines to obtain strategic intelligence. Sayeret Matkal, and again, excuse me, I'm just an ignorant public school American, is also tasked with a wide variety of special operations, including black operations, combat search and rescue, counterterrorism. You know, that actually kind of reminds me of October 7th. Make sure I'm going to have to get to that in a minute. Hostage rescue. Humint. It's spelled like human, but mint, like, you know, you eat that herb, mint. Irregular warfare, long-range penetration, conducting manhunts, and reconnaissance beyond Israel's borders. The unit is modeled after the British Army Special Service, taking the unit's motto, "Who dares wins." The unit is the Israeli equivalent of the SAS. It is directly subordinate to the Special Operations Division of the IDF's Military Intelligence Directorate. Wow. Man, he must have been a proud father. And I have to tell you, I mean, that's a really accomplished family, isn't it? Let's look at this Humint. Humint intelligence. It's an intelligence gathering by means of human sources and interpersonal communications. That sounds familiar. It is distinct from more technical intelligence gathering disciplines, such as signals intelligence or imagery intelligence and measurement and signature. Humint can be conducted in a variety of ways, including espionage, reconnaissance, interrogation, witness interviews, and torture. Although associated with military and intelligence agencies, Humint can also apply in various civilian sectors, such as law enforcement. Well, isn't that terrifying? Whew, my goodness. You know, Netanyahu, he's quite accomplished, isn't he? I mean, he's commanded the IDF, he's helped out with this other intelligence committee, he's been prime minister. Did you know that he actually was an American citizen? Yeah, I mean, he was born in Israel. His mom and dad went to Israel. His dad tried to get into office, and that failed. And then they went back to America. And Netanyahu, he went to MIT, and he graduated in 75. That was the year I was born. And then for a few years, he stayed and he worked in America. And then he went back to Israel. And the funny thing about his dual citizenship, I'm reading that, it's like on again, off again. Like he was a citizen, and then he kind of rejected it, and then he got his dual citizenship again, and then he kind of rejected it again. And oh my goodness, you know, he's a busy man. Let's see, what else do we know? Okay, well, his dad, he became active in the revision of Zionism. We were talking about that. Oh, look at this. This is interesting. In 1940, his dad, Benjamin Netanyahu, he went to New York to serve for a few months as assistant to the secretary of Jabotinsky, who was seeking to build American support for his militant New Zionists. Okay. Well, Jabotinsky died the same year, and Netanyahu became executive director of the New Zionist Organization of America, the political rival of the more moderate Zionist Organization of America. And he held that post until 1948. 1948. We know that date. That's when Israel became a state. Okay, well, interesting. You know who kind of owned New York back in those days? He certainly ran the pier, or the port rather. That was Meyer Lansky. Yeah, the Jewish mob boss. You know the one? that helped our government, during the war to capture SS spies and, found out about the fluoride in the water and everything. Yeah, I wonder if they ever met. Or I wonder if there's any ties or anything between the two of them. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. Because, after all, it's a really small world, in the world of criminals. So let's see. Oh, boy. Here's a little bit more information on Benzian. Did you know he lived to be 102? Good for him. My. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. His father's name was different. Now he was born in Warsaw. He was the son of an ardent Zionist rabbi, Nathan, excuse my American ignorance again, Mielikowski, who changed the family name to Netanyahu because it means God-given. Well, isn't that interesting? God-given. Did you know that in 1945, the Jewish agency, the pre-state Israeli government headed by Gurion, created a vast clandestine arms purchasing and smuggling network throughout the United States? The operation was placed under the guise of Haganah, the underground forerunner of the IDF. That's something. And involved hundreds of Americans from every walk of life. Millionaires, rabbis, industrialists, Catholics, Jews, of course, One group who remained anonymous and rarely talked about were men who were tough, streetwise, unafraid, and had access to ready cash. And of course, that was the Jewish gangsters. The arms smuggling operation was centered in a rented 2-room suite in New York. A man named Teddy Kolik, who later became the popular longtime mayor of Jerusalem, ran the day-to-day operations of the arms procurement efforts. Okay, so he ran the weapons smuggling in U.S., and then he became the mayor of Jerusalem. Wow, good for him. Kolik was careful that those who visited his office in New York didn't want them to attract the attention of the FBI. According to Leonard Slater in his book The Pledge, Dan Flitterblom, a young electronics engineer from New York, suburb of Yonkers, had been recruited to set up a network of secret radio transmitters in Palestine to link isolated settlements, because this was in 1945, so that was 3 years before the State of Israel was established. At this time, the United States government maintained an arms embargo against Israel in the Middle East, but Egypt and the Arab countries managed to avoid the embargo and get weapons. Urazi learned that the mafia controlled the port of New York, and he had no scruples about contacting underworld figures. So guess who he brought in? Lansky. When he told Lansky of this plan and, smuggling all these weapons, Lansky said, hey, I'm in, because Israel comes first. So, let's see, where were we? They helped Israeli agents conceal the arms purchased for Israel, while arms bound for Egypt mysteriously fell overboard. Man, I hate it when that happens. Illegal consignments of military hardware, some of it brand new and still packed in oil and straw, were then secreted onto ships that happened to be bound for Israel. Oh, how about that? Another Haganah emissary, Daphne, who came to the United States in 1946, that's 2 years before Israel became a state, he came over to raise money for the Haganah, and he met with some well-known Jewish gangsters too. Now, Daphne had been born in Croatia in 1913. He immigrated to Palestine in 1936, where he became one of the founders of Kibbutz Ein Gev. Apologies. In 1940, he joined the Jewish Brigade of the British Army. In 1944, he parachuted with other paratroopers beyond enemy lines in Yugoslavia. Wow, these men are they really get a lot done back in the day, didn't they? He didn't stay there long. In 1946, the Haganah sent him to the United States to raise funds. Whew. When I interviewed Daphne, and I don't even know who this is, and I'm going to have to go back and credit this, he told me about his meetings with Jewish mobsters. How about that? This is really interesting here. He said, His meetings were arranged by members of the local Jewish community. His first meeting was in Miami with Sam Kay, a leading Miami Jewish gangster. The contact was made for me by a Jewish lawyer whose office was in the same building as the gangsters. The lawyer felt it was worth seeing the man, since we had nothing to lose. The lawyer called the gangster's office, and Daphne was invited upstairs. He says, "When I entered, I faced his secretary. It was like something out of a Hollywood movie. She was blonde, wore a low-cut dress, with her bosoms half out, and was chewing gum and filing her nails, and said, 'Oh, that's cute. Go in. He's expecting you.'" That's great. When I went in, all I saw were someone's feet on the desk, a newspaper and cigar smoke curling up from behind the paper. After standing quietly for a moment, I cleared my throat. A couple of times, the paper was lowered and Sam said, "Sit down and tell me what you want." So I told him. When I finished, he said, okay, he would help. Now Sam was good friends with the president of Panama. They were very close, and Sam contacted him for us. From then on, all our ships carrying weapons to Israel were registered in Panama and flew under the Panamanian flag. This was a very, very big help. Oh, that's great. That's so great when other countries can help you smuggle arms, isn't it? Good for them. A few months later, the Haganah sent Daphne to L.A. One day he received an intriguing phone call from a man who identified himself as Smiley. You know who Smiley ended up being? Bugsy Siegel. Go figure. Oh, man. It's a real small world in the Jewish mafia, isn't it? Now, all of that was going on around the same time that Netanyahu's father was doing some work in New York for the Zionists. I wonder if they ever met. I don't know, but it looks like Netanyahu's parents packed up and headed to the new state of Israel in 1948. And I guess from there, the rest is history, isn't it, huh? Netanyahu family is, they've really made quite a name for themselves between America and Israel. I mean, my goodness, this is just... You know what else happened in 1948? I'd like to tell you about this. The Smith-Mundt Act was passed. It was designed to stop the U.S. government from using propaganda on its own people. Did you know that? In 2012 modernization and its impact, President Obama signed an update to the Smith-Mundt Act as part of the National Defense Authorization Act. This change allowed government-funded media, such as Voice of America or Radio Free Europe, to be shared within the U.S. The idea was to make information more transparent and available. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I don't think that was really his purpose there. I don't think so, Obama. I think that was just another way to control us. Yeah. Oh, these presidents are something else, aren't they? The U.S. wanted to avoid this kind of control back in 1948, and that's why they passed this Propaganda Act. It banned government-funded media, like radio broadcasts or news programs, for being used inside the country. It was a safeguard to keep Americans free from government manipulation. You know what's interesting, though? Before 2012, when Obama kind of screwed us all over, there was a clear line. Government media was for foreign audiences only. But I have to be honest with you. Why do we need U.S. government media in other nations? I mean, are we trying to propagandize other nations? I mean, it's not like, I just don't understand. If anybody can understand why we need government media to broadcast in other nations, could you please put that in the comments? Because I just can't think like these people. I just don't understand things sometimes. Why? I don't know. Help me out with that. Whew. I'll tell you what, you guys. I could go on and on and on. I could talk about the 1933 anti-Nazi boycott. I could talk about the Association of German National Jews. There was a group of Jews upper-class Jews who were German patriots, and they aligned themselves with Hitler. They actually didn't really care for the Eastern European Jews. The Association of German National Jews was a Jewish organization which was formed during the early years of the rule of the Weimar Republic and during the early years of the rule of Nazi Germany that eventually came out in support of Adolf Hitler. The organization primarily attracted members of the anti-communist middle class, small business owners, self-employed professionals such as physicians and lawyers. And it's really interesting because physicians and lawyers are not middle class. But anyway, national conservatives and nationalist World War I veterans, many of whom believed the Nazi anti-Semitism. Did you guys know that anti-Semitism was a word that was created by Israeli intelligence, just like the CIA created that word, conspiracy theorists, to discredit truthers? Isn't that funny? That's funny how they do that. He believed that Nazi anti-Semitism was only a rhetorical tool used to stir up the masses. Now, in 1935, the organization was outlawed, and its founder and leader, Mats Naumann, was briefly imprisoned by the Gestapo at the Colombian concentration camp, but was released only a few weeks later to die of cancer. 4 years later. This is just... The anti-Nazi boycott was an international boycott of German products in response to a violence and harassment by members of Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party against Jews following his appointment as Chancellor of Germany on January 30th, 1933. Examples of Nazi violence and harassment include placing and throwing stink bombs, picketing, shopper intimidation, humiliation, and assaults. The anti-Jewish boycott came about, and it looks like by Hitler. It was tolerated and possibly organized by the regime, with Hermann Göring stating that I shall employ the police without mercy wherever German people are hurt, but I refuse to turn the police into a guard for Jewish stores. The Central Jewish Association of Germany felt obliged to issue a statement of support for the regime and held that the responsible government authorities are unaware of the threatening situation, saying we do not believe our German fellow citizens will let themselves be carried away into the committing excesses against the Jews. There is so much history that we are not taught in America. So much history. It is absolutely amazing. I mean, who knew about this mandate Palestine? Who knew about that? I didn't know about it. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains unsolved with periodic wars, and that was... Oh boy, I'm getting ahead of myself here. You know what, you guys? I think my head is about to explode. Netanyahu, he has just got a really incredible history here, and certainly feels the need to defend himself in regards to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I think it would be wise for all of us to pay attention to that and start using our critical thinking skills that we developed as children while we played with our peers, which is something that children today aren't allowed to do by the public school, the public retardation schools, and unfortunately their parents who just get them involved in one extracurricular activity after another and totally neglect all that important development that occurs during play. But I'm an 80s kid, so I have great critical thinking skills, and I'm going to continue to use them and deliver to you the truth and expose these dirty politicians one at a time, as many as I can, for as long as I can. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. God bless. Oh, and before we go, I have one more thing. Bear with me. Okay. I'd like to read to you from a Bible study for you. The nature of the Pharisees. In understanding the nature of the Pharisees, we come to learn they often focused on the external aspects of religion while neglecting the internal transformation of the heart. It's easy for us to get caught up in our actions and routines, forgetting the true essence of our faith journey. Let's strive to engage deeply with our beliefs rather than merely going through the motions. As we look at these verses, let's remember that true faith is more than just following rules. It's about nurturing a loving relationship with God and others. Matthew 23:27. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. And with that, I say goodbye. God bless. I love you. I'll see you next time.